Hey everybody, it's Jay here and welcome back to the Sims Attic. So today we are building a building that I've had for quite a while in my uh not my saves, but in my library. Because I didn't have the storage to be able to make a full video of it because there is altogether there was like 15 or 16 hours of like straight footage, and my video editor and my computer just did not have enough space to be able to do that. So yeah, so I did obviously trim that quite a bit to be able to accommodate an interesting video and it not be 2 hours long or a multiple part video. So I kept in the things that I thought would be most interesting. Mainly, I spent a lot of time on terrain tools, which I don't typically do that often, but I've kind of been getting into a little bit more. And I really like the shape and the overall structure of this house because I typically find it hard to kind of go in with bigger lots and kind of with the structure of it. It's just a big blank canvas, and so having that clear thought really helped the having that mapped out image in my head of how I wanted the property structure to be helped the house come together relatively quickly. So I did cut out a bit of the interior and a lot of the landscaping on this build, just because it's you see the interior in the screenshots, and it's like I said, it's not anything that I'm not unhappy with the interior, but I definitely now that I work with CC, it's not my absolute favorite. I was pretty happy with how the exterior turned out on this house, and so I would be interested kind of going back, because I built this months ago, but I would be kind of curious going back to furnish this and see how I could do it with custom content now. This is in Dalsell Valley, by the way, in the kind of Hollywood Hills mansion areas. I believe this starts out as an empty, or not an empty lot, but it's the uninhabited building. On these, I think there's only three. There's Judith Ward and then the Bailey Moon household. So I put in a few of these retaining walls. So the main structure I kind of started out with was I wanted a winding driveway going up the side of the property and have this really statement hilltop Californian style house. And I kind of wanted it to look, even though it's on a hilltop, I wanted it to look like it was a little bit more secluded. Just because I think a lot of, and this is purely going off of stereotypes of Hollywood or Californian mansions. Never been there myself, so yeah. So I kind of went off of very vague, large areas, on the property. So what I mean by that is I started out with the placement of the garage, and then I knew that I wanted this kind of round, very I mean, not round, because you can't really get that round with The Sims, unfortunately, but I wanted this statement rotunda type thing as the main entrance of the house. I went with a very Italianate, I don't know if I said that already, but a Tuscan revival type style for this. Very a kind of like a 1920s interpretation of an Italian villa, and the overall structure does come together pretty nicely. I wanted it to look like its own kind of like complex type thing. A lot of these houses you'll see like multiple outbuildings, and it's just like a huge like compound basically, and that's kind of like the style that I was going for with this. So you can see like I basically put in these like big features and then build the like floor plan around that, like the exterior floor plan. So you can see I just put in that infinity pool, and then there is an external house off of the in between. You can see it on the right hand side here. It's like kind of adjacent to the garage and the main house, and that is a like guest house, or you could have it kind of like set up as a mother-in-law suite. It is fully furnished. You could have a butler live there, even though I do include a room for the butler. So here you can see me working on the style. I think I'm doing the there's a lot of porches, a lot of patios, outdoor spaces that are like covered though for like heat, and yeah, I think it looks pretty good in terms of functionality, because even though there would be a lot of outdoor living space, I think it would be pretty hot there. So if you're not in the pool, you would want to obviously be able to stay cool, and being on this hilltop lot, you would want some sort of shade element. So this is another one of the bigger key like structures. I place this big kind of like lookout area because it's on a very very pretty lot overlooking this like city that's based off of Los Angeles. Yeah, and so I do think I change those windows that I just placed on that back kind of rotunda area, and I think I won't go with a more modern looking window, but I do these, I think it's Jungle Adventure like terracotta roof tiles, and I probably mix like so many different styles in this house. It's probably a little bit of Spanish, a little bit of Italianate, but I think that's kind of I think that's pretty true to form when you're thinking of Hollywood mansions, because they are almost all pretty much revivals. And at this point you can see me doing something that I used to do a lot in The Sims 3. Not having create a style makes it kind of difficult in The Sims 4, but with the debug menu I was able to do a net, but I am putting in a tennis court. This isn't functional. Tennis courts aren't a thing in The Sims 4, but I thought that it would look very accurate, and it would look very cohesive with the style of the build. And so with these exterior staircases and things like that, I really wanted to get into that whole like villa, multiple decks and terraces type feel. So I do work on that quite extensively. And that's pretty much the overall structure of the build coming together. There is kind of this third story area that I built like behind the main portico, and I had full intentions of making it usable, because I'm kind of bad for not making anything higher than the second story like a usable space. I kind of just leave it empty, but for some reason the roofs that are, so here you can see me adding it, but for some reason the roofs that are not like squared roofs, so for instance if you have like the round or octagonal roofs that you can see me placing here, they continue to clip through, and it was incredibly annoying. So there you could see I had to kind of work out the angles of the roof because I had such a unique shape with it. Um, I don't remember. I think this ends up being like a 5-ish bedroom house. I'm not sure. I did post this on the gallery quite a while ago when I first kind of finished it. And I don't even think that I changed the name of the build that was there. So yeah, you can see it in the upper left hand corner. It's the Chateau Peak build, that name that the Sims had. But I will be re-releasing this with the name that I chose to call it. Yeah, one of the key details that I really liked in the exterior of this is I used, I think it came with Seasons, I want to say, the kind of like wooden corbels, or maybe I used the get together ones. I'm not 100% sure, but it really bumped up the Italian kind of villa theme of this place. So here I'm using these get together, I don't know what they would be called. They're kind of like an arbor, and I'm kind of putting them together to make this kind of pergola structure on the second story balcony. And so this is technically the front of the build, but the screenshot is going to be from the back side, which is where you would pull up in the driveway technically, and where the front door is. So it's kind of, I don't know, it's kind of weird like that, but it's not necessarily weird if you think of places that have a view. So they would want kind of the bang for their buck in terms of curb appeal, with maybe having a very secluded like front, and then a lot of the more ornate details in the like bigger thing would be towards the back where your view actually is. So a lot like this, or like Californian homes, or even like seaside homes or something like that. The only thing that I wish I had done a little bit differently, and I did try to work on it a little bit, is I wish I had a little bit more room in between the house and the pool. But I think overall, I mean, it works. I was able to fit a couple lounge chairs and things like that. But I really like the structure. That ends up being a breakfast nook in the middle of that little round area right there off of the pool. That's kind of where like the kitchen is and things like that. So I liked the shape of it. So I didn't necessarily want to change the actual building structure. And then a smaller pool, I think, just wouldn't suit the build that well. So that's kind of the best option that we went with. In hindsight, I probably could have moved the whole lot a little bit forward, but then the terrain tools in the front and the kind of cascading driveway, while keeping it level horizontally, would kind of not work out that well. So there's kind of this big patio area off of the tennis court that I was working on, and then there's this kind of like manicured lawn in the front of the build that has this like retaining wall. So I do include that. I'm trying to think of what else I did go a little bit, I don't think I went too crazy with the landscaping. I think it looks pretty good. I love those. You can see me put them in at the beginning of the build, but those like tall kind of like cypress trees were a main. I knew that's kind of like the look that I was going for at the beginning of the build. I wanted those kind of trees going up the hill, like down alongside the driveway, and kind of like shaping it. And I think that adds a really nice element to it. So I go with a lot of these like darker woods, and right now I have this marble floor tile around the exterior areas. I eventually changed that to that kind of like reddish flagstone. So here you can see me adding, it is the corbels from seasons and I sized them down, they kind of overhang the roof bit a little bit, but that makes it look like the actual Italianate structure that I was kind of going for. So I was really like happy with how that turned out. So yeah, I don't know if I've been checking the Sims kind of news lately because I feel like we should be getting news of a new pack, but I don't know if the current like health situation is hindering any kind of releases for that, or if they're still working on something, because I feel like we would have gotten something by now. But they did say that they are taking it seriously and everybody is working from home at EA, so I think they said they're going through a VPN, so basically people can work from home and then like upload it, and it can kind of be like this collaborative effort type thing without anything getting leaked. So that's pretty cool. Yeah, I think everybody thinks that there's going to be some sort of farming pack coming out, but I don't know, that's just not what I see them doing. They did that like questionnaire thing not too long ago, and it included a lot of questions like, would you rather like snowboard or this and that, and it was very much hinting towards a mountainous like Aspen style pack coming up. And I mean that could still just be a game pack and then we would have a farming expansion pack, but I don't see them doing two worlds that close together. And I don't know, maybe, but I feel like if they did some sort of farming world, it would be highly disappointing if they did a small world. Like, it would need to be pretty large, I would think. So yeah, you could see me working out the like structure going into the mother-in-law house. I liked that it was just very broken up. There was a lot of dimension. Yeah, that's a good word. Dimension to this build. And the overall floor plan. So one of the things, I haven't started working on it yet, but I did probably the most expansive basement that I've ever done in a build in this. It has a huge bar that overlooks the pool. It has windows into the pool. And then I did, let's see, there's a home gym, cinema, vault, sauna, bedrooms, I don't know, living spaces, pretty big area. And then there's multiple living spaces in the main floor. I did have footage of that, and then I kinda had went back through and, well, not kinda, but I did go back through and changed the main living floor, mainly the like main dining and living areas, just because I didn't necessarily like the way they were looking. It was looking a little bit too like tacky and mid-century or something. I don't know, it didn't really like suit the build, so I went with a more I don't know, I wouldn't necessarily not call this build tacky either though, but I think that's like a personal taste, because I did want it to look a little bit dated, kind of how like when you look at the Playboy Mansion and it has like 80s velvet carpet and things like that. Even though this is a completely different style, the Playboy Mansion was a very big inspiration for this, just based off of design elements and the grounds and things like that. So here you can see I pulled out from the debug menu those Ivy objects from Discover University, and I thought they fit this build pretty good. So this takes me a while to figure out what kind of fencing that I was going to do. I knew I could find some sort of fencing, but then once I sized it down, it would kind of clip into the wall to act as the net for the tennis court. But I eventually get there. I use this kind of like chain link on it, and I think it looks pretty good. So yeah. Here I'm just adding some little details on the exterior of the guest house. And the screenshots, I kind of went a little bit more cinematic with this. So I hope y'all don't mind. I had a lot of fun playing in this house. I don't typically play in a lot of my houses, but this one I did because it took me so long and I wasn't able to make a video right away. But with that, I think I will do, because my throat is sore, I am going to do music to the rest of the speed build. And I hope you guys are having an awesome day. Stay safe. Bye.